Joining us right now, an alumna of this very
Yes.
program, Mary Katharine Ham. How good
You see
to
that
have you.
smile on her face indicates she is very happy about the fact she doesn't normally have to get up early.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's not true because also alongside Mary Katharine Ham is your brand new, beautiful baby.
Yes, my little sidekick.
And
So
I'm-
if you hear her,
Oh, that's fine. And I'm thinking you do have to wake up kind of early with the baby in the
you
house.
know, you guys are gonna kill me because she wakes up at 7:30 or 8.
That's
Really?
ridiculous.
That is
you're
a
right.
blessing from the
Well,
heavens above.
I'm sure it won't last, but I got her up early to come see you guys
As
today.
a,
Well,
as a
thank
father
you.
of 4 children who never did that, thank you for joining us, Mary Katharine. I'm done with
See
you.
ya.
No.
Adios.
First of all, congratulations last night right here. You know, they give a lot of awards out at CPAC, and you won Blogger of the Year over at the Blogger
What an honor.
I
thing.
did. It was-
at hotair.com, of course.
Much appreciated.
Did you know it was coming?
No, it was a giant surprise. They told me to be there at 10:45 for something. I said, oh, okay, sure. And I show up, and thankfully I had a decent outfit on and walked out and said some words. You know me, I'll show up in jeans and a sweater. Oops.
Well, but let's face it, this year has been a fun year to be a blogger because of the rollout of Obamacare. And when I say
Yes.
fun, I mean there's been a lot of content, and we've been able to not only to do, we as bloggers have been able to do a bit of a victory lap and say we told you so, but really hammer the president on, I promised you, if you want like your doctor, you can keep your doctor.
Right.
You saw the president delay yet again this week. Where is this going to end up?
I mean, I'm not sure where it ends up for the healthcare system, and myself and all of my colleagues have been able to cover this religiously, and I want to thank all of them, by the way, because I could not be Blogger of the Year and be a mom if they weren't covering for me when I was
Well,
on maternity leave.
and frankly, no blogger operates on their own. We all,
Yes.
quote and borrow from each other.
But for the healthcare system itself, I'm not sure where this ends up. I mean, they have really created a serious systemic problem. I keep saying it's like the worst Jenga tower ever constructed.
Yes.
Because it was all linked, and it's all bad.
And now they're pulling out little pieces of the tower, and it's about to collapse.
Every part that goes wrong, that they pull out and do a delay.
That's a brilliant
It affects
analogy.
all of the
That's
other stuff, and that is the problem. So we got delays this week, and what we find out this week is, 2 to 1 people say that it's hurting their families, not helping them. Many of the people who were insured became uninsured and maybe are not insured again. The whole reason for the law, allegedly, was to take care of the uninsured.
Yes.
Now we find out they're not even keeping track of how many uninsured have signed up.
Well, they may not be, but if you add the people who were uninsured only because they lost their insurance due to
Yep.
the Affordable Care Act, we had Representative Tom Price on last week, and he said definitively, I can tell you right now, more people have lost their insurance because of the Affordable Care Act
Yes.
than have gotten
And
insurance.
as conservatives, we acknowledge, hey, sometimes when the government tries to tackle a problem, it makes it worse. This is the worst/best example of that. And the point of taking a victory lap or saying I told you so is not to be excited about it. It's to say we need to learn this lesson, fix this problem, and not rely on these people when they say they're going to do what they're going to do, because they're bad at it.
I would say in my own life that one of the things that changed me most as a human being was becoming a dad. I mean, you start to look at the world in very different ways. And I raise that only because, we always say, well, you shouldn't ask that question of women. I acknowledge that in my own life. Now you're a mom.
Right.
How does it change the way you look at the world and the things that you now find interesting to cover?
I think one of the things, actually, if we want to talk about Obamacare specifically, one of the things I was attuned to immediately was with these smaller networks, people possibly losing their pediatricians. And when you lose
can you
your own
imagine?
doctor as
Now,
an
hold
adult,
on. Now you're talking.
that's dangerous stuff. When you lose your own doctor, you're
Yeah.
an adult.
Right.
When you lose your kid's doctor, that's a serious issue. And I think just sort of understanding how parents look at those kind of things, public policy issues, in a different way and protective of their children is a big deal.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about CPAC in general, because there's a lot of women here on the dais and also just actively around here in all of
Right.
the panels. Women are a big part of the conservative grassroots movement, and being in the media, a woman in the media, you get to kind of represent them in your own special way. Are we pushing back well enough, and by we I mean you, on the war on women meme?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing to do is have women out there and speaking for ourselves and for the movement and for what we believe. And, I enjoy doing that, and I think we do defy the stereotype. And it's dismissive of women, ironically, perhaps
Yeah.
a war on women of its own, to pretend as if we don't exist or as if we're shills of some other movement. We're women, professional women who raise kids and are brave and professional and make different choices in life, and we just happen to believe the government should be involved less. It makes you a real woman.
There is an
believe it or not.
implied thought there that if you're a woman, you should think a certain way politically, isn't there?
Yes, and that's one of the things
Which
I
is
talk
sexist,
about.
by the way.
That's one of the things I talk about when I talk about this is, my grandmother was, really a remarkable woman, a Navy wave, did intelligence during World War II, raised 3 kids while her husband was deployed, played basketball, went to college, all this amazing stuff.
I want to see that miniseries.
Yeah,
Jeez.
she's an amazing woman. She was a conservative her whole life, but don't tell me she was not a feminist, that she didn't do things to move women forward. And I can believe just what she did and be a strong, independent woman as well.
All right, so you've had a chance to get the flavor of CPAC, beyond getting your award. And so what is your thought? What are you walking away with as you watch the comings and goings here?
I think one cool thing about CPAC, I know that the media always covers like this weirdo here or this weirdo here. And by the way, I sort of enjoy weirdos.
I do
but
too.
that's part of any activist community. But I think we do defy the stereotype, and I think when you walk around and you see all the young people and you see all the women, that's an important part of this, and I wish it were recognized more. I've enjoyed the speeches. It was fun to see Christy come in and sort of, how's that going to go? And I love how everybody sort of...
What was your assessment of his reception yesterday? I thought it was warm, but not exceptionally
Yeah,
warm.
and the thing is, the press is always waiting for people to be booed, and we're all really polite. Nobody's getting booed here, but I thought his speech was pretty good, and I thought he was smart to start with the pension stuff, which all conservatives say, okay, we're into that. And then he just went straight to other governors, which I think is a good move.
Very smart move.
Yeah, I mean that's in his repertoire of things that he always goes to. But did you find any other thing that stood out from that speech?
I'll just say that I enjoyed it. I don't think there was a particular moment, and that I know you guys have been covering Bridgegate, which I will reiterate. If the National Press Corps would just find the same energy and channel it to any of the national scandals we have going
Benghazi,
on, it would
IRS,
be much appreciated.
Honestly, we stopped covering it after the first couple of days. Honestly, we made a point to stop covering it because it's not a story. Mary Katharine, real fast, one other thing you've sort of, other than giving birth and winning Blogger of the Year, you've also made some waves debating Bill O'Reilly on legalization of marijuana.
Oh, geez.
Now, I know you've
Brian's
probably
getting
heard.
all ill already.
Look at the body language. Very good. So once in a while, would you just call in to 888-630 WMAL when I'm going at it with Brian?
Oh,
on
we
this?
can do
Because
that.
We need an extra voice.
Look, Larry, before you came here, we already did this. We did this endlessly.
But I do appreciate the fact that you've made the conservative case for ending the war on drugs. Do you think that voice is being heard at CPAC this year?
Well, I actually did a panel yesterday
panel.
and had we had a nice discussion about it with Bill Bennett's producer. So that was really nice. And I just think it's one of these things where if most of Americans concede that maybe this whole war on drugs thing isn't working that well and it costs a lot of money, how are we going to reevaluate that? And it doesn't have to be legalization, but if it's legalization in 2 laboratories of democracy, I'm okay with that. We'll adjust as we go. We'll study it.
We all have our Bill O'Reillys to bear.
Listen, I'm in good company.
That's a high compliment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mary Catherine, always a pleasure. It's good to see you.
And really
Thank
a pleasure
you for having
to see
me.
the mini
I'll
ham.
go forth and corrupt the youth now. My own youth
Starting
included.
with your own.